So I'm at Waste Free Systems. We're actually in Kunda Park on the Sunshine Coast, and we're in the warehouse of Bernie Craven. And if we just have a little zoom in here, we can see all the hard work. Bernie physically goes out and collects all these recyclable products and then reuses them. So we're going to hear about how he does that now. So Bernie, thank you so much for having us. So tell us a little bit about your background.
Well, I'm a hairdresser of 40 years and always been an environmental and socially conscious hairdresser. So 25, 30 years ago, my staff used to wash the colour off foils because I didn't want them to go into landfill. That's the aluminium. I've always sorted my waste and probably wasn't a very good use of their time, you know, when you think about it. But and they didn't really enjoy it. But I was just hell-bent back then even on just making sure that it didn't end up in landfill. When I realised that what was going in the yellow top bins for recycling wasn't ending up there. A lot of it was ending up in landfill. So I felt that I needed to do something about that. And about 4 years ago, I started the IP and the idea for it. And we've been running for about 2.5 years now. So, and it's a continual development all of the time. You know, we're a repurpose company. We look for what we can do with each, waste resource that we get through. And as I said, we're servicing hairdressing salons. You know, we provide bin systems to them to separate the waste. Most shopping centres only have one big bin and it all goes to landfill, or if they do have a recycling component, it's just paper and cardboard, usually nothing else. So, we're saving about 95% of what comes out of those businesses from landfill. Part of our, the way our bin systems are is that we get, we develop these bin systems. So this one's actually for plastic. And local artist Kendall Perkins, she actually designed these for us. There's actually 4 different designs, so it's very cool. She's well known for a really bright sort of artwork, which is sort of fantastic. Everything we do, we use a local printer for the bin wraps. All of our printing, he's fantastic. We also everything we use is Australian. So we particularly obviously the warehouse is in Kunda Park, so we're wanting to be much more of a part of the Sunshine Coast with our business.
So we've seen how innovative you are with your thinking and your creative thinking, and you've taken it a step further. And can you tell us a bit about the 3D printing side of things?
Yeah, well, look, plastics obviously is a big problem. When I started to see those, pictures of, the flotsam floating around the oceans, the big islands of plastic, I really thought, I've got to do something about this. And so I started looking, and we got a lot of plastic through from the industry that we actually deal with. You can actually see a lot of the plastic bottles all baled and ready to go to the recycler there. So I started looking, what can I do? And I found the 3D print community, which is really, it's a 3D printing is just fantastic, and it's going to go off in the next 10 years. You'll have units in houses that are going to deal with a lot of this sort of stuff. But that's my prediction, so remember that. And so what I did was I started to look at 3D printing because obviously they're using plastic, and then I went down to Melbourne and I saw some guys from Deakin Uni. They were actually reprocessing waste plastic into filament, and so I saw that they were crushing up the prints and turning them back into filament to use because filament's quite expensive. So plastic. So I started to get the equipment. I've got an actual extruder. So we actually cut the plastic bottles up. They get shredded. And then they actually go into here. They come out as filament like this, which then gets fed into the 3D printer and actually creates, at the moment we're creating prosthetics.
So how much would that, if it wasn't recycled, if you had to buy that filament, how much would that be?
These rolls of filament, here's one, I bought one. These are probably anywhere between about $25, could be $35. I can actually create with my extruder something like this for about $5. Yeah.
Right, massive difference.
Suddenly you've got this, you've got this amazing saving, and you're actually reusing something that you don't want to go in the landfill. Yeah.
Absolutely, lots of benefits with that. And so I know it's quite technical learning about a 3D printer. Tell me what's motivated you to push through all those technical challenges?
Well, I'm a nuts and bolts sort of person. I'm not necessarily very electronic, so I always to get help with that. But Great 3D print community online. You can ask all your stupid questions, and they also they'll give you the answers. They don't really care, which is really great. So the community said buy them in kits and build them. So I did that right, really within my capabilities, because you need to know how they run. So I can pretty well fix it.
And tell us about those prosthetics that you're working on now.
Yeah, so I found this worldwide organisation called Enabling the Future, and then so they have all these designs online, which are open source, so I'm able to use them. So I'll show you. This is one of the hands that we created as a. So the designs there, we can modify it if you've got the design skills, and I do have a few uni students helping me out now. So. And the whole idea with these is that they're either wrist activated or they're elbow activated. So this particular one is wrist activated. So when the wrist moves, the actual fingers close. The arms that I'm doing actually, they actually fit on the arm like that. The hand is here, and there's actually a gauntlet that runs down where the forearm is. And there are all these threads that run up like tendons. So as soon as the elbow's moved, the actual hand will open and close. So they're really quite functional. Here's actually a few bits. There's a few fingers that I've already printed off for a new hand that I'm doing. I've got two recipients, a 12-year-old girl, Hayley, and a 12-year-old boy, Connor. They both, there's sort of like this silent community out there of kids that don't have any funding. They've never had a prosthetic, or if they have, they might have had some sort of clunky thing when they were little. And I just thought, well, why can't I help them out? And these are lightweight, they're strong, functional, they look a bit cool. So instead of the kids feeling, like that that it might be, it'll actually create a bit of interest, and other kids will think they're actually cool rather than not.
Because they're actually very expensive, aren't they?
Oh yeah, I mean, prosthetics can cost anywhere from 10,000, say, to 100,000 on something, motorized and really sort of U-boot that works well. So these are, obviously quite, basic, but we're looking to sort of improve the functionality of them as we go along.
Yeah. So speaking of which, where do you see the business in the next few years?
Well, this is, I look at this as having a lot of future. So, this is not the only thing we want to make, but we really want to work with this. I'm building a community of people around it that can sort of help us and be involved in it. We're really looking to sort of improve the functionality, and actually, provide them maybe at a much sort of cheaper cost. I mean, I've got lots of professionals around me, and medical professionals most definitely we need to consultate to actually, obviously when you're dealing with something like this.
And finally, the last question, why do you do business on the Sunshine Coast? What keeps you here?
Well, look, I'm a great believer in doing everything sort of local. The Sunshine Coast Council, fantastic. They're sort of leading the way. I was just talking to Leanne Kemp, Queensland's new chief entrepreneur. She mentioned the Sunshine Coast Council to me as being, really forward in their thinking, and I want to be in a place where there's support for what you want to do, and people sort of to get behind you to create that sort of groundswell.
Well, that's exactly how I feel about the Sunshine Coast as well. So thanks, Bernie, for your time, and thanks for sharing your warehouse with us for this afternoon. And
thanks so much for doing it. Hey, it's really good to have guys like you, promoting the area. Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.